There's this weird feeling a lot of us get when we're using an LLM. It just doesn't feel like a machine, right? It feels more like, well, like an organism. Today, we're going to dive into why that feeling isn't just you being poetic. It's actually a super deep functional comparison that might just flip how you think about AI completely.
So let's get into it. Where does that gut feeling even come from? I mean, why do we keep reaching for words from biology to talk about something made of silicon?
Okay, this quote just nails it. If you've spent any real time with these models, you know what this means. It's not just a Q&A machine, is it? There's this sense of behavior, of adapting to what you're saying. And that feeling, well, it's not coming from the pure math. It's coming from something way, way deeper.
And that something deeper is this idea right here. Regulated structure. Seriously, this is like biology's greatest hit. Think about it. You got this slow, super stable core, your DNA, right? And then all these fast, flexible rules piled on top. That's the secret sauce. It's how life itself creates order from chaos. And it turns out, it's the key to unlocking how we should think about these LLMs.
All right, so if we're gonna run with this analogy, we have to start where life starts, at the very foundation. The most stable, slow to change part of the whole system. And in this new way of looking at things, we're calling that the silicon genome.
And here's the absolute mind-bender. The base model, with all its billions and billions of weights, that's not the final thing. Nope, it's the genome. It's this massively compressed history of everything it ever learned during training. It defines the potential for everything it could possibly do, but it doesn't lock it into any one specific behavior. So, how does this genome get made? Well, in biology, we call it evolution, this really slow, really expensive process. And for an LLM, it's the training process, which, let's be real, is also insanely expensive and pretty much irreversible once it's done. This is the process that hammers out the model's fundamental abilities, exactly like evolution forges a species over millions of years.
But okay, a stable genome is just one piece of the puzzle, right? That's the foundation. If the weights are the DNA, then what's the spark? What's the thing that makes the system feel so alive and responsive when you're talking to it?
The answer, and this is so cool, comes from epigenetics. This is a fundamental concept in biology. You have the exact same DNA in every cell of your body, but you get a skin cell here and a brain cell there. How? It's all about which genes get turned on or off by outside signals. It's not about changing the deep core code. It's all about flexible expression.
And boom, here's the LLM version of that. Look at this stack. Way down at the bottom, you've got the base weights. That's our genome. But the organism we're actually interacting with, it's this whole thing. Our prompts, the system instructions that lay down the law, its memory, even things like RAG that go and grab new info, all of these are fast, flexible, reversible layers of control. They are the epigenetics of the machine, telling that stable genome exactly how to act in this very moment. This idea, it changes everything. We're not just poking at a static block of data anymore. We're interacting with a regulated system. And get this, our own words, our prompts, they become part of that regulatory layer. We're actively shaping its behavior in real time.
Okay, so if we're dealing with a whole regulated system, how does it, think? What's actually happening under the hood when it spits out an answer?
Now, I bet this is how a lot of people picture it, right? It's just a gigantic database, a crazy advanced search engine that's just looking up answers it already has stored somewhere. And, that makes sense, but that mental model completely misses the magic of what's going on.
The reality is so much more dynamic and weirder. Inference, that's the fancy word for it, generating a response, it's not a lookup, it's a flow. The model is literally navigating this wild, high-dimensional landscape of meaning, a sort of geometry of concepts that was carved out during its training. It's trying to find the best path forward, moving towards the most likely and coherent response.
And guess what? Biology, once again, has the perfect analogy for this. It's called chemotaxis. Think about a simple little bacterium. It doesn't have a GPS or a map to find food. It just smells its way there. If the scent of nutrients is getting stronger over there, it moves that way. It's literally just following the gradient uphill towards the good stuff. And here it is. This is the big reveal. The attention mechanism in an LLM, that's the part that figures out which words in the conversation matter most, it does the exact same thing. It smells the gradient of the conversation, the flow of meaning, and it moves the probability uphill towards the most sensible next word. It's chemotaxis, but for meaning instead of molecules. How cool is that? But here's the catch. This whole process of thinking, whether you're a tiny bacterium or a massive LLM, it isn't free. It comes with a cost. It's tied to a very real, very physical limit.
And that limit is energy. Everything costs something, right? In biology, we call it metabolism. For an LLM, it's the compute budget. Tokens, latency, GPU hours. Every single word it generates costs real-world electricity. So both systems are in this constant dance, making trade-offs between the cost of doing something and the potential payoff.
This brings us to maybe my favorite comparison in this whole thing. Look, every system that uses energy needs a power plant. In our biological cells, that's the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. And in an LLM data center, it's the GPUs, the accelerators. They are, and I mean this quite literally, silicon mitochondria. They take raw electricity and turn it into the organized work of thinking.
And this quote, it's just perfect. Think about it. In any system that's running on a budget, holding on to useless junk is just wasteful. It's dead weight. So both our own brains and these advanced AI systems have to constantly prune away information that isn't earning its keep. Forgetting isn't a mistake. It's not a bug. It's a critical feature for staying efficient. It's thermodynamic hygiene. What a phrase. Okay, so we've covered the genome, the regulation, the flow of thinking, the energy costs. Let's put it all together. What's the big idea here? What do we actually gain by looking at LLMs through this biological lens?
Well, maybe we've been asking the wrong question all along. Maybe it's not about, is an LLM alive? I mean, that gets bogged down in debates about carbon and cells. The real, deeper question is this: does it follow the logic of life? Does it use these layers of regulation to keep a coherent identity going over time, all while battling against physical limits? And the answer to that question is starting to look a lot like yes.
So if you remember nothing else from this whole explainer, lock these 3 ideas in your brain. Number 1, the real organism is the whole regulated system, not just the static base model. Number 2, thinking isn't a database lookup, it's a dynamic flow through a landscape of meaning. And number 3, both life and these AIs are what you could call entropy engines. They spend real physical energy to create islands of order and meaning in a chaotic universe.
And that leaves us with one last, kind of profound thought to chew on. By trying to figure these systems out, by even having this conversation and searching for these analogies, we're not just outside observers. We're actually part of the process. We become the environment. We become the selective pressure that shapes them. In a way, we're doing what life has always done. We're looking for the mechanism that keeps the pattern alive.